I'm chatting with Siouxsie and Steve Severin. We found out last week about Robert Smith.
We only found out 2 weeks ago about Robert Smith.
You've anticipated my question. I mean, this seems to be happening an awful lot, doesn't it? People leaving. One of the
They
questions...
don't exactly leave. They kind of collapse and peter out. To be honest, Robert is not working with us, and he's not working full stop. He's gone over the edge.
So does that mean in the future Robert will be working with you again, do you think?
No. I don't know if Robert will be working at all again.
What about John Carruthers? How's he fitted in?
Fine.
I mean, this is, in the middle of a tour? Again, history repeating itself almost.
Yes, on the eve of a tour.
Yeah. So, I mean, that must put a real pressure on you, surely. When you...
It does, but I suppose in hindsight it's always been beneficial in that no one's had any time to get complacent about anything.
And John...
I think everyone should, whatever they're doing, whatever they're trying to achieve, feel a bit scared and maybe not too confident about what they're doing. Otherwise, it just comes across smug and self-important. And
so this situation removes that smugness. I mean,
it's not so much smugness. I think we especially thrive on diverse situations that aren't perfect.
Yeah.
I think there's been times when situations have gotten a bit too close to being too good, I suppose, and hasn't been very good for us. But I think that's something that maybe you can learn to create yourself. When things do get good, you can put a spanner in the works yourself.
Do you think John Carruthers is going to be a permanent man, or is it too soon?
Oh, you're asking me about a guitarist. I mean, no guitarist has ever been permanent.
All right, let's change and let's get on to something happier. I mean, Creatures. What's happening with Creatures?
Nothing.
Is there going to be anything happening with Creatures?
If there's time, the Creatures only really happened by accident. Nothing was...
How did it actually come about?
Well, in the way that the Banshees write songs, sometimes it's with guitar and voice, or bass and drums, and sometimes it's with drums and voice, and usually it's a starting point and things are added to it. It was a rehearsal before we recorded Juju, and me and Budgie were just working together whilst John McGeoch and Steve were having a tea break or something.
Oh.
And it was obvious that nothing else was needed for this thing we were doing. It was called But Not Them. And it was just taken on from there, really. And only when there was time permitting.
What about you, Steve? Are you doing any, what's the word?
Gloving?
Well, whatever. I mean, because you produced Altered Images as well, didn't you, for a while?
Yeah, but it's quite hard pulling this group back together every time it falls apart, so we haven't really got much time to do anything else apart from that.
I was talking to Rat Scabies last week, and we got on to Captain Sensible and the day job.
And Captain Desperate.
Captain Desperate.
Go on.
Go on, I mean...
No, he's got the big mouth.
But we were talking about Captain Sensible anyway, and the day job and the night job syndrome, i.e. Captain Sensible, the pop star, and as member of Damned. Do you see...
Not at all. I know what you're getting at, and you're miles away.
Am I?
Yes.
Fine.
For a start, the Damned are a pantomime act anyway.
Okay. Do you... A lot of bands go off to exotic places and record albums. Feast was recorded in Hawaii.
Yeah, and they wear their Hawaiian shorts and shirts in those wonderful places. They don't suffer in leather.
Why did you record in Hawaii?
Because it was perverse. I think we returned whiter than when we left.
Where was Hyena recorded?
Oh, sunny
everywhere.
Camden.
Camden, Stockholm, Islington.
Yeah, the glamorous places.
Yeah.
You go for that. How long did it take? It's been a while, hasn't it?
We were in the studio for about 2.5, 3 months altogether, but it was spread over a long period because we were going away to places like Israel to play live, and then we did the Albert Hall and the video for that and stuff like that. So it was, and of course Robert was disappearing every now and then, which was only a minor problem, but it did. Until he had done all his guitar, it was a bit of a stumbling block.
I've done my research. And if my research is correct, my research tells me that it was 6 years ago tomorrow that you started recording Hong Kong Garden. Does that sound about right to you?
That's about right.
Yeah. You got the new LP now. Mm-hmm. It's obviously fair to say that there's a musical progression. To the point that the single starts with... Are they actually strings, or is it synth?
Yeah, they are real strings. The real McCoy.
How did that come about? Taking Hong Kong Garden on the left hand and the new single, the progression in between. Whose decision was it to use strings? Was it yours or producer or what?
Of course ours. We've used strings a few years before. We actually took them out live, a trio of string players. And we've always been fascinated with even songs off the screen being scored into string music, classical music.
You say, of course, ours,
yes,
and look at me as though you're going to belt me. So what does that mean? What does a producer do with Siouxsie and the Banshees?
Well, I think to qualify being called a producer, a good producer should only be as good as the group is, and it should work both ways. For example, there's lots of producers that maybe a lot of young groups, and we probably did it in the past, we thought we'd like to work with blah blah because we loved that certain album from that certain artist. But it doesn't really work like that. It depends on the artist and the producer at the time. And decisions should be mutual. There shouldn't be any bullying.
From either side?
No.
So
sometimes from our side.
How prepared are you before you go into a studio, in the sense of, you both write the material. A lot of bands spend 5 years in a studio almost, writing as they go. Does that work with a Banshee, Steve?
Every album has been different in that sense, because the first couple of albums was all written in rehearsals or demoed first before we went in to record it. Then Kaleidoscope was about half and half. This one the new album's been written entirely in the studio. Hence, that's the reason it's taken a bit longer than usual.
You actually write a lot about real life situations.
In a warped kind of way, yes.
Yeah, Christine was a fascinating story.
I just watched Sybil over last weekend, and she's a latter-day Christine, I suppose.
Yeah. 22 personalities, wasn't it, with Christine?